Okay, folks, could you hear me? We'll get started now. My name's Tom Benson. Around Las Fuentes, I'm better known as Joanne's husband, but we've been members of here for about 4 years now. This is a great church. We're wonderful. Before I get going too far, though, I want to thank Lawrence for setting this up. He is so professional. He really knows what he's doing. We should be grateful that we have such a guy. Yeah. Thank you, Lawrence. Yeah. I'm a volunteer for Matt Force. Is everybody familiar with Matt Force? It's a methamphetamine task force. And I do 2 or 3 things for them. But Marilee Fowler, the director of Matt Force, asked me to be on a panel with Sheila Polk before COVID, but because COVID hit, the panel was over, so I said, I've done some research. She said, we'll do a webinar. So that's what this is. And this is a refreshed one, because she asked me, she said, do it again. So I guess she didn't like it the first time. Anyhow, so let's get started. Oh, one thing before I start. This is a presentation, but if you want to make it a conversation, that's fine with me too. If you come across something that you really want to raise your hand and talk about in the middle, go ahead and do it. Please do that. There will be a question and answer period after, but you can do it in the middle, or we'll do it at the end. Okay? So I am also surprised at loneliness. When I did this 3 years ago, loneliness wasn't a big subject. But now I'm seeing all kinds of information and discussions in the paper about loneliness. So it is an important topic. Today, the U.S. and a number of other developed nations are facing a loneliness epidemic. Our epidemic of loneliness and isolation has been underappreciated public health crisis that has harmed individual and societal health. Our relationships are a source of healing and well-being hiding in plain sight, one that can help us live healthier and more fulfilled and productive lives. According to Cigna, 58% of the people are considered lonely, and this is fairly consistent with pre-epidemic of 61%. So here's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to define loneliness and the consequences and the triggers and possible prevention and lifestyle habits. I'll probably be spending more on lifestyle habits than any of the other things, because this all connects. It's amazing. Okay, and I want to give you some research-based guidelines for changing those suffering a life of loneliness into an enriched and purposeful life. One caution, and I say this for Sam. This presentation may highlight the need for professional help, and by no means should it replace professional help when needed. So don't confuse loneliness with being alone. Being alone can be enjoyable and healthy. And the more high-tech our lives become, the more nature we need to get out and achieve a natural balance. Being alone is a physical state. That is where you are there's nobody around you, but it's basically a physical state. And it can be enjoyable. I'm sure it is. I'm sure you all know the benefits of sitting on a park bench in a park, just meditating. It can be enjoyable. But that's different than loneliness. What is loneliness? Loneliness is a mental state where one may experience from another being alone, or you can experience when you're in a crowd. Being lonely is an emotional state where you feel disconnected from others, even when they are nearby. Loneliness can cause people to feel empty, unwanted, and sad. Being alone and being lonely could occur separately or at the same time. For example, you might be alone physically, but not feeling lonely. On the other hand, you can feel lonely even when you're in a crowd. It could happen anytime, anywhere. You can be alone in a crowd, lonely with friends, lonely with family. It is often associated with unwanted lack of intimacy. Loneliness can be, and this is what surprised me when I first started this, loneliness can be one of the most destructive feelings humans are capable of feeling. For loneliness can lead to depression, suicide, and even raging out and hurting friends. According to a Cigna survey, young adults are twice, and this also surprised me, by the way, young adults are twice as likely to be lonely than seniors. Would you have guessed that? I would have thought that seniors would be the ones that would be most likely to be lonely. But adults aged 18 to 24 report feeling lonely compared to 41 of seniors ages 66 and older. So what are the consequences of loneliness? Well, first of all, loneliness is far more than just a bad feeling. It harms both individual and societal health. It is associated with a greater risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, stroke, depression, anxiety, and premature death. This Dr. Julian Holt, who did a lot of research on this, came up with this, and I just saw this, by the way, at AARP. A bulletin came at AARP just 2 days ago, and here's what this says. Same thing, it all came from her research, which says that being socially isolated carries the same risk as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Wow. That's surprising. It is more predictive of early death than the effects of obesity, excess adult consumption, air pollution, or physical area inactivity. So what are some of the things that contribute to loneliness? Well, family connections impact feelings of loneliness. A third of lonely adults, 34%, report talking to their family or partner about how they feel quite a bit or a lot. On the other hand, half that rate the non-lonely, that's 68%, twice, almost basically twice the amount. Another thing that could trigger, you can all understand that, is the loss of a family member, friend, or significant person in their lives could trigger loneliness, causing the individual to be physically withdrawn from society. And as we get older, this happens more frequently. Typical situation. Man loses his spouse for many years, living alone, but the kids say, "Dad, you can't drive anymore." So they take away his car, and he no longer, here he is by himself in the house, he can't drive, and he no longer has a feeling of purpose. And so what happens? Based on studies from Center for Disease Control, prevention suicide is 15th leading cause of death for seniors 65 and over. Even before COVID-19, loneliness was a major cause of depression that could cause an individual to engage in alcoholism or substance abuse. So what can we do for people that are lonely? The key, of course, is connections. First step, though, is both healthcare providers would recommend is for therapy is prescribing antidepressants, and alternative approaches such as prescribing medications, physical exercise, dieting, acupuncture. I have to put acupuncture in because Joanne's daughter's an acupuncturist. Hypnosis, electroshock therapy. Another, pet therapy. This is a great one. Provides companion, also provides opportunity for social interaction. You ever notice this? People walking their dog are always talking to other people walking their dogs. And they get to know each other very well. And now seniors that do not require professional assistance, but are lonely and life is no longer fulfilling. These are people that don't need professional assistance, but what can we as a church do for them? Well, remember, our goal is to change the lives of people from a life of loneliness to an enriched and fulfilling life for the rest of the days. Here's one of my favorite quotes. You can't help everyone, but everyone can help someone. Ronald Reagan. This is a job for the entire community. We need to be in contact and aware of the feelings of our family, friends, neighbors, and associates. And this is not happening. In California, I was surprised. Moving from Michigan, which is pretty gregarious, I found out in California, nobody knows their neighbor. There was a guy, one of my friends had a guy living across the street, and the people had lights shining into his house. And so he went over and said, "Would you mind turning off your car lights? They're shining into my house." The guy said, "Sure." They were robbing his house. So, unlike COVID and here's the key, unlike COVID and other diseases, it is recommended that loneliness is just the opposite. Connections are the cure for loneliness. Personal contacts. But by the way, face-to-face is by the way recommended. Don't look to the internet unless it's a last resort where you have difficulty getting around and maybe your only way to communicate is through the phone or the internet. I just did something for the sheriff, and the amount of scams for going after lonely people is on the increase. And these guys are really good to identify the widow that's lonely, get to know her, get all they need to get is the numbers, and then they're gone. And so is her money gone. We know there are two important things to manage loneliness. The first being close and personal contacts, as mentioned in the previous slide. The second is for the lonely person to at least try to make connections. And this is where you come in. You need to encourage that person to at least try to get out and help them if necessary. And there are a lot of ways of doing that. So the person you are trying to help, trying to find out what is there something that they really be interested in. For example, if he's a veteran, he might want to volunteer at the VA. I did that for 19 years, and it was really a rewarding job. I was the guy that pushed wheelchairs around. It's the only job I've ever had where I could legally push people around and get away with it. And there are many opportunities to volunteer in our community, right? Don't forget the church. This church does so many things that there's a great number of opportunities here. And the nice thing about most volunteer jobs, if not all, those people are outgoing, positive people. There would be it's a good positive connection. And you make many I did long-time friends. And then don't forget MatForce. We have a lot of opportunities at MatForce as well to do that. But MatForce is the methamphetamine task force. That's what I volunteer for. That we go after. This is a great organization. Marilee Fowler is one of my heroes. She runs this thing, and we do so many things to discourage people to get into drugs. And in fact, Yavapai County has been doing such a good job. The state said, hey, you guys are doing a good job. Why don't you come down here and show everybody in the state of Arizona how to do the things that you do. No, it's a volunteer nonprofit organization. It was founded by Sheila Paul. Oh yeah, we do. And where you might not hear, where you might not hear from them, but one of the things that they do is they go into the schools and they teach the kids about the dangers of drugs. You know, it's a terrible statistic, but last week we had this airplane crash, and probably 60, 70 people, whatever, died. That same day, 220 people died in this country from an overdose. That never hit the headlines. Every day, 220 or more people are dying from drug overdose. And so MatForce is doing a lot of things, including one of the things I do is I'm a reentry coach. I meet guys coming out of jail and help them get their back on their feet. And that's pretty good. It's worked out really well. Yeah. Well, when they started out, methamphetamine force, task force, MMA, methamphetamine task force. And obviously it's expanded because methamphetamine is not the big drug now, it's fentanyl. And we have some great commercials. One pill can kill you, and it's true. And they hide this stuff all over the place. I'll probably have Marilee come and give a talk on what they do, because it's amazing, all the things that they're doing, and the people that are involved. And many of them, people that are involved, are former addicts. And I learned a lot from them. Did you know, I'll just get off subject a little bit, a couple of my guys independently told me this. If you go down to a bus stop in Phoenix and you sit there for 5 minutes or so and just look around, within 5 to 10 minutes, somebody's going to come up and try to sell you fentanyl. So it's that bad. Another situation is the widow, living alone, big house, and no transportation, and so no personal connections. Meals on Wheels, of course, is good. They may deliver and may have a friendly visitor there, but she really needs something that's more important than that. So this is a solution. Move into a retirement community. It's not that much more expensive when you start adding up the money you get from your house and all of the bills that you're not paying, but it is certainly more of a calming influence as well, by the way. And we have a lot of fun. The child could encourage that, because now mother will now live in a healthy environment, and she will guarantee you, if she wants to, or if she makes any effort at all, will make a lot of connections, positive connections. So these are a few suggestions. You need to think about it as a group. what are we doing? And well, we're doing a lot here. And every one of you, there's all variety of things going on in this church that is done. So this is an ongoing community effort. Now I just want to talk briefly about everybody's health. The common sense would tell you that if a person is lonely and if that same person doesn't have very good health, that would even exasperate that loneliness even more so. But if you're not lonely, you still need to think about lifestyles. So let me briefly give you just a brief story. I'm a naturalist at the Highland Center. How many of you heard of the Highland Center? How many? Oh, good. How many of you have been there? Good. Yeah. It wasn't that way when we started. I'll tell you. They thought we were some sort of Scottish rights group or something like that. Yeah. I can remember walking out in the parking lot, and here was a guy in his kilts and everything. He says, "I'm here. Am I too light for the game?" You know, and I said, "You're in the wrong spot, buddy." But he was looking for the Highlands game. Anyway, I was leading a walk, and which is what I do. People, a naturalist walk. And after the walk, one of the guys came up to me and he said, "My name is Bob Morris. I run Chapter 5, which is a recovery home. He's died, by the way, and name's changed." And he said, "Would you be interested in taking some of my clients on a hike?" And I said, "I'm not a therapist. I'm just a naturalist." He said, "That doesn't matter. Try it anyway." Well, I didn't know what to expect. And you just think about what we first go around. Well, these are people recovering addicts. What kind of people are these? And first thing you think of, all the tattoos and all that stuff. Well, what I found were basically young people, mostly, some older, but young people mostly, that had their life had gotten off the track, and they just needed a little support to get them back on the track. And getting them in nature was beneficial. They had been going to therapy as well, but getting them outside was really good therapy. And I'm doing this, and after a while it occurred to me that these guys need to know, or the men and women, by the way, they need to know more about nature. They don't have a real understanding of how to live a good life. They've been told a lot of things not to do, but they haven't been told a lot what to do, what they can do to have a positive life. So I started slipping a few things in. And I would preface it by saying that, I've just been around for a while, so I can tell you some of my experience. And so anyway, one day I'm about to lead a hike, and this guy comes up to me and he says, "Are we going to do OGS today?" And I said, "Well, probably, but I don't know what OGS is." He says, "Old guy stuff." So then I realized that, okay, these guys are picking up on it, and I shouldn't say guys because they're men and women. They're picking up on this old guy stuff. They need some kind of a positive direction for their life. And so I said, I better do some research and find out what are some really good things that I wanted to tell them about. And a lot of it was things like Constitution, how to survive in jail. Some of my friends were in Hanoi Hilton for almost 8 years, and how did they get by? But I also started talking about, healthy lifestyles. I've been successful in getting people to give up smoking, because if you tell them smoking's bad for your health, so what? They keep smoking. But if I tell them that in 20 years, you're throwing up in smoke $30,000 to $40,000, and I do the math for them. I've had one guy pick up a cigarette and put it out right there, because for some reason or other, they tune in faster to the money idea than they do to the health idea. But anyway, so what were some of these lifestyles that I decided they needed to know? And there are 7. Good health, and there are 3 that are a rich life. And you'll see these 10 nowadays lots of different places. And they all, I found out they're all basically the same thing. And you could add a few here or there, but these are the key ones. And so pretty quick, I'll go through these. No smoking or street drugs, little or no alcohol. Now I would say no alcohol, by the way, because with more and more research, a healthy weight, proper sleep, exercise 30 minutes per day, and stress management. I'm preparing a thing on stress management for Medforce, and that'll be out in 2 or 3 months, and I think you'll be interested in it. But I want to emphasize there's 2 that are important: nutrition and exercise. And exercise can be one of the easiest things to do. Just go for a walk for 30 minutes. You can meditate. You can think about it. And so you're doing both the exercise and the meditation, the brain health. So one of the 3 lifestyle enrichment, what would you guess? The 3 important things. I'll give them to you. First is, you'd be surprised to know that at any age you can learn. It used to be when I was growing up, when you got to be about 45, 50, that was about as smart as you were going to get. You couldn't learn anything more than that. But that's not true. Your brain can learn new things at any age. And so, the old saying, the quickest way to become an old dog is to stop learning new tricks. So it's important. Try to do something that you can't do very well. I used to say, try to do something you're bad at, but that doesn't come across quite right. But try to do something you can't do very well. For example, I do the keyboard, and I can't do that very well, but it keeps my brain going. Violin, there's a lot of different things, and the book I will refer to you is called the Neuroplasticity, and it's got a lot of ideas. It's really a good book. The second one is positive friends, and this one is for the loneliness people is extremely important, but for the addict that's recovering and trying to get back on the right track, it's an absolutely important. My guys that I talk to coming out of jail, they are emphatic when they talk to me about that. If they go back to the environment that they were in, they'll get pulled right back down. They need to get into positive, and that's one of the reasons why Alcoholics Anonymous was so successful. It was positive friends that pulled these guys up. If you want to watch a good movie, watch The Forge. And then the third one is one you all have a life with a purpose. And even the person that can't get around very well can think of things that they can do that has a purpose. You can, Joanne had a friend that was almost blind, a pastor, and he would get his wife to dial the phone, and he would call former parishioners and talk to them and encourage them. And so if you just think about the things that you can do to connect or for a purpose, and of course, this church is a living model of that. Diane Iverson's a personal friend of mine. Now I want to just tell you a little story. In 1956, I went into flight training. And at that time, they had a physical test where they had a step that was probably 18 to 20 inches high. And you had to step out on that once a minute. Step up, step down. So for 5 minutes, they would beep, beep, beep. And so you end up doing that for, anybody care to try that out? It was a pretty rigorous test. We also had a obstacle course, and there was about a 10-foot wall, and you had to get over that. And you know what? Almost everybody passed that test. There was a rare thing that people wouldn't pass the test. But what about today? Okay. 77% of American youth would not qualify for military service without a waiver due to being overweight, drugs, or mental and physical habits. What happened in that 70 years? Because when they were my age, people were generally in good health, but not today. Something's happened. I joke by saying there was no McDonald's in 1956. There is today, but I'll talk about that in a minute. In today's world, we are faced with challenges that our bodies have not been given time to adapt. There's if you're really interested, this is a beautiful article in here about the Homo sapiens and how, did you realize that we used to think there were just Neanderthals and Homo sapiens, but there were about 6 different species of hominins. And it's a really fascinating article. And eventually the Neanderthal, you guys, showed up. I mean, we overcame all the rest of them, all of us. But today, in that 46 or 56 to 25, the body, the stuff is happening to your body that we haven't had a chance to adapt like they did in those days. Too much sugar, too much stress, too much sitting, too much air pollution. We're fortunate to live here in Prescott where we have too little sleep, and too many screens, So we eat approximately 20% more calories than we did 100 years ago, and 700 to 3,000% more fructose. And there lies the root of the problem. Sugar problems such as prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, conditions that affect 50% of adults and nearly 30% of children in the U.S. And what I was surprised to find out is that early diabetes among young, really babies was almost non-existent a few years back. Today, it's very, very important. We eat ultra-processed foods, addictive and make up nearly 70% of calories consumed. People in the U.S. 74% of adults are overweight or obese. 93.2% have metabolic dysfunction, which is the process of converting food to energy. In summary, I want to read you this first. This is the article in the Geographic. The key pillar of connecting, he's talking about connecting with other people to expand your health span, sounds easy. By the way, they talk now, the two things we used to talk about, lifespan. Now we talk about lifespan, but we also talk about health span. Health span is a period of time where you can get around and enjoy life. Lifespan is, where you're in trouble. but it's sometimes tend to neglect. This can cause issues over time because friend circles naturally shrink with age, even as you interact with at least one person you live with, like a spouse, or social relationships and experiences remain important. Old age, because they can offset loneliness and keep you mentally sharp. Yeah. We were talking about that in Bible study with Patty this morning about our old friends and people our age. And I said, Patty, the problem I have is that most of my old friends have died. So you better not make any close relationships with me. So anyway, she got to laughing. We got her giggling when she was reading the Bible. She's got to giggle at church, get her after. So anyway, this is being out in the world, even if it's just walking a dog, has been shown to provide exercise and boost your overall happiness. Helping in the community, tutoring, or other meaningful pursuits that keep your brains active and involve social interactions can be personally fulfilling, and they link to improved memory and reduced stress. Turns out the secret to living a long, healthy life is also the secret to living a good one. So, with that, these are the references that I use, and I've got copies here. I don't want them just to look at, not to borrow. There's two that I would really recommend to you. Excuse me, let me get back. This one, and this is The Power of Neuroplasticity, which means you're never too old to learn, and he gives a lot of good information. And this with good energy. And there's just a tremendous amount of good information in here. So you may want to come on. So, in summary, these concerns apply to everyone, not just the lonely. I don't expect the government to solve these problems soon, do you? And there are millions of dollars opposing change on a national scale. Take a look at the commercials in the Super Bowl and just kind of mentally check how many of those commercials are trying to sell you some ultra-processed food, pizzas, hamburgers, everything. There's a huge amount of money going into this processing of foods. And then, so the responsibility lies with the individual and to become educated and take personal care of themselves and their individual family members. I almost wanted to choke a lady the other day, but I didn't. She had 2 kids in her shopping cart at Costco, and they were about 3 or 4 years old, each eating a huge piece of pizza. Can you imagine? And she was overweight too, by the way, the mother. Those kids we're killing our kids. I mean, they're shortening the lifestyle. We need to do a job educating the company. If there's my email, if you want to email me, be sure to put loneliness in the subject, because if I see an email that I don't know what it is, I just delete it. But I welcome that. And so, any questions or discussion? Sam. Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah. Ah, you are wonderful. Well, the 7 to 10 years is what the statistics will add to your life, a retirement home like that. By the way, I'm hoping, the nurses contacted with me, and I'm hoping to be taking those people out to the Highland Center to do some of the things that we do with Las Fuentes and other places. So that's going to happen, by the way. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Sam was saying, get a Turians. Consider the thing was spiritual connections.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
Spiritual connection. That was the number one thing that they
Yeah.
attributed.
So we have a real mission here in the church to try and get people to do. The other thing, there's a Harvard study that's been going on for I think over 70 years, and they're tracking families that, and the one thing they found when the measurement of happiness wasn't money, it was family connections. So that's true. That was the main thing. Anything else? Yes, Susan. Yeah. Yeah. Did you all hear what Susan was saying? Too often people wait too long. And the typical situation is the widow that has all this beautiful china, and she says, how am I going to get rid of all this stuff I have? But there are outfits that will come in, and you keep what you want to keep, sell what you don't want to keep. They'll move you. Our experience was, you slept in our house, woke up that morning, said, see you. That evening, we walked into our new apartment, all set up, ready to go. It was they make the job real easy, and when you start, they do cost money, but when you start adding up all the things that you have to do to maintain a home, including paying taxes and so forth, it's not nearly as burdensome as you might think. Yeah. 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 Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yeah. Now she's got to take care of you. But I want to add to that a little. I'll get you. I want to add to that a little bit. When you move into like a situation you had, the people that work, like Los Fuentes, they're professional and they're watching, and they will see when that partner has maybe reached the stage where they better go into some sort of a memory care situation, because it's been proven that the caregiver, the one that's trying to do all that thing for that, is running themselves right down into the ground. And they usually die before the person with the Alzheimer's. So it's a situation, and that's the advantage of being in a place. I'm not trying to advertise for Las Fuentes, but it is a good place to live. Yeah. Any other? Oh yeah. Well, I'll shorten it up real quick. I do these things because I get more than I give. It's that simple. Nothing is more enriching, by the way. Well, let me tell you about a young lady. And this is in the court diversion program, where they've been charged with a felony, and if they complete the court diversion program, the felony gets wiped off. This young lady, there was no reason why there would be a benefit of putting her in jail. So she was in the court diversion program. Beautiful, young smile, just a nice lady. One problem: she was addicted to methamphetamine. Well, the court diversion program got that out of her system, and now she's living a happy life, sober life, and life goes on. What would have put her in jail would have done nothing. Yeah, I don't misunderstand me. Some people need to go to jail. That's for sure. Any other questions or comments? These are all great thoughts. Yeah. The Forge, yeah. It's a really good movie. Yeah. It was about a year old now. Any other thoughts? Okay, thanks for coming, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. You're welcome.